Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 27 of Piano Barbarians. My name is Steve Savage. I'm so excited to have you here today. If you are a Rockapella fan, then this is the episode for you. I had a great experience today attending one of their shows in Newark, New Jersey at the NJ Pack. And I had the good fortune to sit down with one of their super talented tenors, Mr. Steve Dorian, who happens to be the brother of my good buddy Greg Dorian, fellow piano barbarian. And I just want to say welcome to if you're a Rockapella fan and that's how you found us. Welcome to this little podcast world. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get to the conversation with Steve Dorian in just a moment. I do want to give a quick shout out to my co-hosts and co-producers, Jarrett Izzo, who's I believe up in Boston right now. He's working on producing some great content. We got some cool interviews coming up. And also Mr. Paul Size, who I believe is on a tour bus out in Vail, Colorado, or something like that out on the West Coast. He's also in the process of conducting interviews and getting some more content lined up. So we've got lots of great things coming. I will say that back to today, I had a very cool experience. I woke up at the crack of 11 a.m., got in my Volkswagen, drove down to the NJ Pack, the New Jersey Performing Arts Center located in Newark, and I sat down with an auditorium full of high school and middle school age kids, and I thought it was going to be an absolute hell, but they were actually so much fun to be around. They were all there for the Rockapella show that was happening at 12:30 p.m., and it was really a lot of fun. These kids went absolutely crazy for these guys up on stage, who really did a fantastic job. They put on a show for about 45, 50 minutes or so, and then they did a little 10 to 15-minute Q&A after the show. And I got to tell you, these kids, and particularly the girls, were just absolutely swooning over our guest today, Mr. Steve Dorian, as he would kind of walk around the stage and sing, and all he had to do was lift up his hand and wave, and they'd all go crazy. So it was a lot of fun to see. And, these kids, it was exciting to see that these kids were really, really enjoying the music, and they recognized a lot of the music, some of the Motown stuff, and it was really cool. And Steve and I talk about that a little bit at the beginning of the interview. I also want to share a funny little anecdote. My knowledge of the group Rockapella, began with when I was a kid and was watching the TV show Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, and I imagine that's how quite a few people come upon Rockapella. And that's how I knew them, and I always knew them from that theme song, and I always had in my head, I knew that there was the band leader was this guy with the big crazy blonde hair. And today, I saw them perform live, and they've had a few lineup changes, but their band leader, Scott Leonard, is still there, and he's still heading it up. And I had the opportunity to give him a ride from the venue back to his hotel, along with Steve, and we did the interview at Steve's hotel. But it was very surreal sitting there in the car with Scott Leonard sitting in the back, and I made it a point to tell him, and yes, I do feel a little embarrassed about it, but I just said, you know what, man, I just got to tell you, this feels very surreal right now, because my memory of you is seeing you on TV when I was a kid growing up, singing the song and having, the audience on the TV show, do it, Rockapella, and they would launch into it. And he just laughed. He said, well, what are you, about 28, 29? I said, yeah, I'm 29. He said, yeah, you're the target demographic. And I learned some cool things. I learned that most of the contestants on that show were from New Jersey, and the show was actually filmed in Astoria, Queens, which I had no idea. So it was very cool to meet Scott. He was very gracious, and it was also wonderful to sit down and have a conversation with Steve, who I had met once before, about 3 years ago in St. Martin when I was passing through on a cruise ship, and he was visiting his brother Greg, who was performing at Sopranos. So it was really great to catch up with him and listen to his story about his kind of fascinating career over the past 10 years, starting out as a rollerblading, guitar-playing, singing guy at a theme park, and all the way making his way to now, performing with Rockapella, with some amazing opportunities, playing with the Boston Pops and all sorts of cool things. So stick around, stay tuned, and please keep checking us out. We're so happy to have you listening, and thanks again for all the support. Now here's Steve. Yes, so sitting here with Rockapella's own Steve Dorian.
Hey.
I just for texture for our listeners, I didn't expect to see this at an a cappella show.
Yeah.
And this doesn't mean to sound like an insult to a cappella, but sometimes when you go to an a cappella show, you have preconceived notions about maybe you think of like the college a cappella group or whatever. And so I'm walking in and just for the listeners so they know, I was at this show, which was for students, right?
Yes,
for
it was
educational.
kind of field day type of a show today.
Yeah, field trip.
I mean, field trip, not field day.
Here
field
in downtown Newark, where we're hanging out at Steve's hotel room. And I have not seen that level of swooning in a while.
It was unbelievable. It was like I was looking around for Bieber or something on stage. I turned around.
You were there, Justin Bieber.
I
today,
guess
man.
so, man. I wore my hair the right way. Apparently,
It was. I think you just had the edge on the bass singer George.
George.
Right?
Oh yeah, man.
It was the two of you who got the I think the most amount of.
That's our demographic.
Yeah.
The 12-year-olds apparently. Like it's the 12-year-olds and the 60-year-olds.
Right.
That's our demographic.
Yeah. You. There was a couple of moments where you walked out to the apron of the stage. And all you had to do was look and kind of wave your hand and
yeah, it was incredible.
And then he would kind of do similar things. It was a lot of fun, man.
Got the real rock star feeling for a few minutes there.
Yeah.
It was really cool. But it was a fun show, and we're here in Jersey doing 3 nights or days with the kids. We do these educational shows, and apparently they came to our show because they're studying Motown in their school right now, and we're putting out a new Motown album this year.
Oh, okay, all right.
So that's the reason that we were on stage with them today, because they're learning about the music that we were covering. So Rockapella actually has a history with the education in Newark, with the Newark New Jersey Performing Arts Center.
Okay,
it's been an ongoing thing, but it's mostly been Christmas time that we've come up and do this. So this was the first time, I guess, that we've done a regular pop show, really. So the kids are really excited. I think maybe it wasn't only to be out of school. I think they were having a legitimate good time with us.
They were.
So
cool. I felt like I was back on a field trip, and like I said, we just had a bit of a haphazard car ride to the hotel here from the venue.
It was scenic. It was good. Elizabeth, New Jersey. It's all good.
And while we were in the car, I mentioned that one of the things that was almost like heartwarming was when Scott Leonard, who's I guess we call him the band leader, right?
Yeah,
he's the guy.
He's the man.
He came out to the apron of the stage and talked a little bit about your upcoming Motown album, and he mentioned a few names: Stevie Wonder, Al Green, Jackson 5, The Temptations, and he just rattled off several Motown affiliated artists, and all these kids after every name were just like, bah!
Yeah, they really loved it.
And I was like, oh man, that's so great, because for me, I think I've developed sort of a jaded or a kind of sense of cynicism over the past few years is with kids assuming that they're not absorbing any of that stuff.
But it's definitely still alive.
But it's definitely still,
Yeah,
so,
they're really into it.
I don't know if they're teachers or I mean, were these...
Maybe it's their folk, their parents.
Their parents.
Into that kind of music, and they're growing up with it in the house. And now I think these kids were maybe like 13, 14, maybe to 17 or 18. But you would think the response wasn't going to be there, but it totally was.
Yeah.
They loved it.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It's a good sign.
Yeah, it was great. All right, well, let's backtrack a little bit. We'll get back into more stuff with Rockapella, but I wanted one of the things that Scott, the band leader, had mentioned was the affiliation with Disney that all the guys in the group have had, and I know you and I have hung out once a few years ago. Steve here, I should mention for our listeners, just to put all the cards on the table. Steve is the brother of Greg Asadorian, who is
fellow piano bar player,
who is credited with giving this podcast its name. Actually,
oh really?
Yeah, he had a Facebook post one night that said like, "Hope all my fellow piano barbarians have a great weekend." And I said, I'm stealing that.
It's perfect.
But I always credit him. I always cite the source.
That's good. He's good at that. He comes up with good ideas all the time.
Yeah. And so we took it. We thought it had a nice ring to it. And, of course, our co-host, Paul, who's probably listening right now, he didn't put it together that it was piano bar, Barian.
Yeah.
He finally put that togetber a couple
just thought,
weeks
man,
ago.
that sounds cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
Anyways, so backtracking, Greg had told me that I think when we had hung out, you had talked about, or you may have even been at the time still working for Disney.
Yeah, I think I was back around 3 years ago. Is when we might have hung out.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I was full time with Disney. My history with them goes back to 2006.
Okay.
I started let's see. I started doing a show at the Polynesian Resort of all places. Okay, I got cast in their luau show as a singer. So they have traditional dances, and it's a dinner theater-y kind of a show.
Yeah.
But they have one role for a singer, and I just happened to kind of fit the criteria. I fit the look a little bit, fit the voice. So they started me off part-time in that show, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I was working at Busch Gardens in Tampa, which is another theme park, rock and roll kind of a show where I was playing guitar. And actually, they had me on rollerblades.
I think I heard about
playing guitar and singing in this rock and roll show, doing like Kiss and Huey Lewis.
Can you please tell me that there was an was there an advertisement that said, we're looking for a rollerblading guitarist?
Absolutely there was. And it's funny, the envelopes that went out.
It doesn't get more show business than that.
It was unbelievable. They used the picture of me on my blades with my guitar, and that was the emblem, Busch Gardens. And then there's me on the rollerblades, entertainment department. So,
oh boy.
Anyway, that was actually my first full-time professional job ever. Besides playing in bars and stuff like that.
And you're how old at that point?
I started that 24.
Okay.
Ish. 24. I'm now 34. So that's been a while.
Okay.
So the Busch Gardens thing happened, and that really allowed me to get on stage and perform in front of people. But I always had the guitar in my hands because that's what I was used to. I played in bars and like what you guys do in piano bars. I did it with the guitar.
Yep.
So I did that all through college and stuff.
Yeah.
So the Busch Gardens thing allowed me to get the guitar out of my hands, and they taught me how to kind of dance a little bit and speak on a microphone instead of only singing, but actually be like an MC and a leader in the show.
Right.
So anyway, from Busch Gardens, I went and auditioned for Disney, got the Polynesian Resort, which was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Then a few years later at Disney, they do a Christmas thing every year, and I got cast as a singer in the Christmas show. They needed a rock and roll type singer.
Okay.
And I fit the part.
No rollerblades this time.
No rollerblades, thank goodness. Thank goodness this time. So I did that Christmas show, and that was just a 2-month run there during the holiday season.
Yep.
But it allowed me to kind of a little showcase in front of all the casting people at Disney. So from there, I got an opportunity to audition for Lion King, which is one of their big shows at the parks. It's been there for 10 years.
It's still going too, right?
Still going strong. Yeah. I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay.
And I got cast in Lion King as one of the singers, one of 4 singers in the show, and it's a big, huge production. So it's been a really great progression from the Busch Gardens days, which was a great start, to being in Lion King at Disney World, which it may be a theme park still, but there's super talented people there, and they come up to New York and bring people down from New York and all over the world. So I'm very proud of those days at Disney, and I still work there today. Right. When I'm home. Yeah.
It's kind of fascinating that, and Scott alluded to this on stage today, where during your Q&A, where he said that the whole community of entertainment at Disney, in a lot of ways, is almost like a training ground.
It really is.
Or I guess if you're using the baseball analogy, like the farm system, like the
it
minor
is,
league, that's sort of
absolutely
a vibe.
Because you're doing 4 to 6 shows a day, with maybe a half an hour to an hour break in between.
Yeah.
And you're doing a 30-minute full-on production.
Yep.
Of these Broadway songs, and it's a big deal, and you're in front of 1,000 to 2,000 people, so you got to bring it every day.
Yeah.
But the main thing about working at the parks is you got to be consistent.
Yeah.
A lot of people can go out and do a show one time and do it well.
Right.
But you got to do it 4 to 6 times and do it like it's your first show every time.
Right.
So I think that's what Scott was alluding to, that if you can go and do that, and you're put through the grind every single day, and you can be consistent, and you can be good, then that's what allows you to get a little bit better. And that's why he trusts the talent department there at Disney, where other guys in our group in Rockapella, George is our bass, and John Brown is another tenor. They've also come through Disney, and both still work there also did Lion King, same as me. So, it is a good breeding ground, and there's great talent there. So, again, feel very blessed to work there.
Yeah, you talked about, keeping it fresh, bringing it every day. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, just being sort of the touring you do with Rockapella now. Well, you'll do shows like this, which is, you guys have about 45, 50 minutes, maybe just under an hour or something like that today. But traditionally, your sets tend to be like a 2-hour show, right?
It's like a regular 2-hour concert. Yeah. Maybe an intermission between, usually not. So, it's like a regular full-on show.
Now, in terms of the catalog you're drawing from with them, would you say that the shows tend to be pretty much delivering the same product every time, or with some variation?
Do you mean as far as energy and quality of show, or different songs?
I guess what I'm getting at, the question is do you feel a challenge for keeping it fresh?
Yeah. Well, yes. Typically in our show, it has been very much the same show for the past 2 years that I've been in it. We've mixed in some new songs, but typically the structure and most of the songs have been the same. Yeah. So it's similar to what we've done at Disney, where the show doesn't change. Right. So yes, you definitely have to keep it fresh that way. Yeah. Just now we're starting to incorporate the Motown theme because we got the new album coming out. Right. So now we're rehearsing a little bit more and we're putting new stuff on stage. Like today we actually did, Scott mentioned we did this new song, Used to Be My Girl. Right. And that's brand new for us. Yesterday was the first day we did it, so we had rehearsal and stuff up to that point. So yes, we do have to keep it fresh because for a little while it's been the same show. Right. But now it's starting to become new. Right. But personally, do you find it challenging at all when you're approaching it every time, or are you just, I got to imagine there's got to be a degree, now you've been with them for about 2.5 years now. 2.5 years. There's got to be a degree of just adrenaline. It's cool. I mean, every time I get up on stage with these guys, I look around and say, wow, I'm in a good place. What the hell am I doing on stage with these talented musicians and singers? No, man, because you belong there. Well, it feels good. Like, I say that, and I'm like, I feel great being on stage and feel very lucky to be up there with them. So I get jazzed up every time. And we get a good crowd, and when you get the response, I mean, it sparks that fire again inside, which you started way back when you start auditioning for things just for the love of it, So it's still there. Yeah, totally. Even if we've been doing the same show for a long time, I still get jazzed because what acapella music specifically, it can vary. I mean, it's like you gotta. It's not like playing the same note all the time. I mean, I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say, but it can be different every night, and you're like, man, that sounded good tonight. We were really on. Yeah, no, well, it's the voices are free to go in any direction. Yeah. And do all. I imagine there is, with a lot of the riffing and running, especially that some of the guys are doing. There's got to be a degree of improv involved every night. Yeah, I got to imagine there is. I mean, the parts are solid. But who's ever doing the leads can kind of take it and run with it a little bit. Like even today, the bass singer George, he did that little Whitney Houston thing. And it sounded great, but I thought to myself, I bet that wasn't planned or rehearsed, or maybe it was. Well, he's that good that it seemed like it was off the cuff. Okay. It is something that he does quite a bit. Oh, okay. But it's one of those things where he wants to just show off a little bit of the versatility that he has from being a super low bass. It's not all I do. Yeah, where he can go and do like this crazy. He sings. What's the song? What's the song that he sang today? I don't. He did. I Will Always Love You. I Will Always Love You. Yes. Right. Sorry. But he does do that typally all the time. But he gets a great reaction from it all the time. So why not do it? Yeah, it went over great, and I bought into it. Yeah. I was like, wow, he's really just doing this off the cuff. Yeah, no, he's that good that he can. But typically, the show is the show. Yeah, I think you would come 3 weeks from now, you may see a couple different songs, but you'll see basically the same thing. Yeah, it's amazing. Had you had much a cappella work? Like before? I know you've done a lot of harmony work. And with the stuff you're doing at Disney and Busch Gardens. Yeah. Would you say that? I mean, when you went to school, and this is something else I wanted to get into, because you mentioned that you studied exercise physiology. That's right. When you went to college. Yeah. Where'd you go to school? At UMass Amherst. UMass Amherst. Okay. Yep. And to get back, did I have a cappella experience? The answer is absolutely not. I had zero a cappella experience. Okay. But my experience was playing in acoustic duos. Sure. Playing with my brother Greg. I mean, we did gigs all throughout my high school and college. Him and I would do duos in the college bars at his UMass, which was in Lowell, and mine in Amherst, and all in between. And we used to sing parts. We would do like Simon and Garfunkel songs, or Bare Naked Ladies, who have all these harmonies in their songs. Oh, yeah. So Greg and I would do that. Yeah. That's really where I got my training. Yeah. Was really from singing with Greg. Sure. He's taught me everything I know about music from the literally from the very beginning. When he's a great piano player, so I didn't really play any instruments when I was younger until I was like 14. Picked up a guitar back then, but prior to all that, we would stand at the piano.
Right.
He would play like Every Rose Has its Thorn. This is in '88.
Sure.
And I would sing it, you know, and that was how I learned how to sing. Standing next to him, we were singing Bon Jovi tunes, and we were singing Def Leppard, and we were singing Poison and Billy Joel and all that kind of stuff. And that's where I learned. It's from hanging out with him.
I think a lot of people would argue that that's probably one of the most effective methods for learning. I remember going to a clinic in Boston with Victor Wooten, who's this ridiculous bass player, Bela Fleck and the Flecktones.
Oh yeah.
He talked about how he said I learned music the way you learn a language. He said, which is just being around it and using it and hearing it. And he said, when I was 5, I got a set of drumsticks put in my hands, and because I had 4 brothers who were all in a band, even though nobody was over the age of 15, he said we had a little band, and that was how we learned.
That's if you're around it, you got to get in the game somehow. So go and do something.
Right. You had mentioned in the Q&A today as well that your parents are both musicians.
That's right.
And I never knew that.
Oh yeah. My dad was. He still plays, but he's a saxophone player and a clarinet player.
Okay.
And throughout our younger life, he would gig, doing weddings and parties and stuff all
kidding.
Around New England.
Wow. So you guys really grew up around that to some degree, that working musician
absolutely
mentality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or influence. That's so cool.
Yeah, and I remember on the weekends he'd be out.
Right.
In the evenings on Saturdays, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, he'd be gone, take his gear, and he'd go do a gig. I didn't know really what the heck he was doing at the time, but now that I look back, he was a working musician all the time.
And it gave you guys. I mean, I would, I would think that a lot of parents would. Well, a lot of parents might not necessarily, if their kids are musicians, might not necessarily know what avenue to push them down. But I would imagine that you guys. No, it doesn't surprise me that you guys are doing gigs at such an early age as duos, because there's that business sense of, all right, if we get a little repertoire together, if we have enough songs, and maybe we can get $50 to $100 and go somewhere in a bar and play. Yeah,
it was cool. I mean, and both my parents were very supportive of that all throughout our lives.
Yeah.
So that allowed us the courage and that gave us the what am I trying to say? Gave us the avenue to go and play and perform. So my mom sang too. She sang in church, and I remember, and her sister, actually, our aunt, sings. So I remember, God, all the time, Wednesday nights, they would come over, and I was maybe in like the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade.
Right.
And they had their group for church.
Right.
And there was a guitar player, and then there was my mom and her sister, and then this other woman. And they were in our living room singing all the church songs every Wednesday night to practice for Sunday.
Yeah.
And I used to think that was so cool.
Yeah,
they were in there jamming and doing their thing. So, we just had it growing up.
You did, yeah.
We were destined to do something in music, either for fun or for work. For us now, we're making a little money at it, so it was all good.
in the DNA, in the wiring.
I think so.
So so from growing up and playing gigs with your brother and everything, then you went to college and you were sort of involved in studying something that didn't have really anything to do with music.
I really didn't have aspirations of becoming a professional musician or a singer. I just did it for fun, and they paid me some money in a bar, so I did it.
Sure.
So my focus in college was I wanted to go into physical therapy school, so I majored in exercise phys, which is all that anatomy and chemistry and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to go into sports medicine, and I was involved in sports. I played baseball at UMass. Like, I was a scholarship athlete.
Yeah.
So, that was what my life was sports and really baseball. And my real dream was to become a baseball player.
Sure.
I wanted to get drafted, and at the time I was like, okay, I can do this. I can get drafted. Right. And then the college career happened, and I didn't get drafted, which is fine. But that was my focus.
Okay.
So music was always just kind of there.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that I went the route that I went because, fortunately I'm working right now, but if for some reason I can't sing anymore, if nobody wants to pay me anymore, maybe I can fall back on that degree,
Yeah, you never know, man, but it seems to be working out okay so far.
So far, so good. It's been 12 years professionally, so.
Yeah, and so coming out of college, now I think we had talked about this when I met you a few years ago, you did a cruise ship as well.
I did. I worked for Carnival. Yeah, just like Greg. Followed in his footsteps. He kind of hooked me up with the gig.
He hooked you up with it? Okay.
Yeah, I had some contacts. I found out where they were auditioning, and I went and auditioned, and Carnival hired me.
Yeah.
And but I wasn't really I was versatile, but didn't have very much experience in what they were looking for because they had this whole Broadway show, like singing Phantom of the Opera.
Stuff,
the review shows. So I really wasn't that familiar with it, but
you might have been the one straight guy in the cast, too.
I might have been. I think I was, You know what? There was one dancer that was, I think he was straight. But anyway, it was a great experience, and I
Right.
learned so much. Like, I was singing Phantom of the Opera, and I was singing Les Mis songs,
Right,
and
right.
all these legit Broadway songs. And now that I look back at them, they're on video and stuff, I look back and say, you know what, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
You know, I sounded okay. You know,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
a trained singer, but
Right.
I did the thing, and I sang in key, and I sang the style, I think. So
Yeah.
it was really a really great place for me to grow and learn and become a little bit more versatile. You
Yeah.
know? Besides doing the pop stuff, be able to do that
Absolutely.
Broadway stuff too. So it was a great experience.
So you did, how many contracts did you do with
I only did
Carnival?
one.
You did one,
I did
right?
one contract with Carnival.
That's good. You didn't get sucked in, man.
Yeah, it was a cool gig, you know, and I enjoyed it. At the time, I was in this good relationship, and
Yeah.
we were on the ship together. But
You were on the ship with Greg.
no, I was
Oh,
on
the
with
relationship.
the relationship
Oh, okay,
with the
okay.
girl, and
Yep.
she, you know, she didn't quite like it as much as I did, so
Right.
we decided it was time to get off, and
Yeah.
which ended up being fine.
Yeah.
And I
Did you move back up to Boston? Or?
no, I moved. We were living in Tampa at
Okay.
the time in Florida. So I went back and worked for Busch Gardens for a little while because
Yeah.
the Busch thing happened before the cruise ship thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went back to Busch for a little bit, and then I ended up getting a gig and auditioning for Branson, Missouri. You're familiar with
Yep.
Branson, right? It's
Mhm.
like, you know, they got all kinds of shows.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
got cast in a show there for a whole year, and it was a 50s review show, which was kind of cool, you know?
Okay.
So picture like a Grease style
Right.
review. And again, it was something where I really, really learned and grew a lot as a performer.
Right.
Because there was only 8 people in the cast, and there was a full band, but you had to sing and dance and act. So the
Right.
dancing was like partnering with girls and full-on production numbers,
Right.
but you also had to be singers. So I really was only used to kind of singing
Singing.
and moving, not real dancing. You know, I'm no trained dancer. But I moved enough to get by.
Yeah.
So again, I got to Branson, and it taught me so much. I really, really grew as a performer. So that's, again, a great experience. You
And
know?
now, and even now with Rockapella, you guys have some. That's another thing that struck me was which I didn't expect, was like, wow, they have there's actual choreography going on.
Yeah,
here.
it's full
and
on.
it definitely, I mean, it adds to the whole experience of the show.
Yes.
But it made me wonder. It kind of brings me to something else I wanted to ask you about. Your rehearsal process now,
Yeah.
and I know that kind of came up in the Q&A as
Right.
well, and Scott gave kind of the stock response for, we're all over the place, and you know. But I got to imagine that, and I mean, when you get together, how does that work?
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, the initial step is the songs. We learn the songs.
Sure.
You know, and how that works is Scott is the master arranger
Okay.
of everything. So everything you heard today, he put together.
Sure.
What he does is he sings all the tracks
Oh,
himself,
okay.
comes up with the parts. They're not written music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, although he's a genius musician and arranger, he doesn't write them down.
Okay.
He just sings the parts that he hears in his head. So
Okay.
then, individually, he will separate the tracks. So let's say my part he pans it to the left, and I just listen and learn my part
So
separately.
you could be at the gym on the treadmill.
That's what I do.
And you got your part in the right side of the headphones, and then the rest of the group's in the left side
That's
of the
right.
headphones.
So you
type
just
deal.
learn your one part.
Wow,
you know?
that's
And he
fascinating.
sends you the lyrics.
What a great way to do it.
It's awesome, and
Yeah.
it's become an easy process now.
Yeah.
At first, I was blown away and I was overwhelmed. I didn't know how I was going to learn this music, but I figured out this little method, and with his method of panning to the left and right, it's easy now.
Yeah.
You know, just learn the parts, and he sends you the lyrics, oohs and ahs, and all the things that go in between, and you just kind of copy what you hear.
Sure.
You know, so you got to have a good ear to do that kind of thing, and you know, the Scots really put a good group of guys together that can do that.
Right. So everybody
So everybody learns the music first, just
Right.
like that. So we could be across the country, wherever, all in separate places, and learn a new song, just like that, over the computer. And then when we come together at the gig, we could sing it, and it would be fine because we've all learned this.
Really?
Yeah, we do that all the time.
So it's wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, we wouldn't have put choreography to it, but we'll sing it in like a sound check, let's say.
Yeah.
And if it comes out the way that we want it to, we're good to go. That's our rehearsal. So it's really preparation.
Yeah.
Your self-motivated preparation.
No kidding. Well,
yeah.
that's a level of professionalism right there. I mean,
It is. We don't get together and sing.
yeah.
You know, we never sit in a room of the 4 of us or 5 of us and practice and rehearse.
I guess logistically, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we're all living in different places, you know. So the computer thing, it makes it so easy. And Scott's professionalism and everybody's professionalism, you know, learning their part is, if you come in and you know your stuff, it's an easy process.
Yeah.
You know?
I got to imagine that a lot of people are listening to this right now thinking about a band they played in at some point thinking to themselves, oh, how many times did I tell so-and-so to go learn the bass part to that song
right.
or learn this to that? And then you got the guys in your group that show up unprepared.
Yeah.
No, but not at this level.
Not at this level. We got to come in and we got to know our stuff. And if you don't, guys kind of look at you like, dude, pick it up. We're relying on you to do this, and that's your job.
Sure.
That's our job. If we get a new song, learn your part within a week or so.
Right.
We'll come together and sing it, at the next show. As far as choreography goes, we definitely do get together in person.
Okay.
4 of us do live in Central Florida, so it's easy to get together.
Sure.
So, like today, we did a new song. We had put that together like 2 weeks ago with 3 rehearsals.
Right.
And Scott and John come together with their ideas on the choreography, and they teach it to the rest of us.
Yeah.
And we practiced it 3 times, and there it was on stage.
Sure.
So it's a quick learn. I mean, you gotta be somewhat quick and.
Sounds like Scott's got a plan for how he wants it all.
He
to
really
look
does. He really does. I mean, he's just got a vision, and I trust it.
Sure.
I'm just like, Scott, you need me to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And he's been at it for 20 years successfully. And the group Rockapella has been at it for 20 years. Scott and Jeff have been in it Jeff is the percussionist.
Yeah.
Been in it for a long time. So they're doing something right.
Yeah,
and
it's
I've
working.
gotten an opportunity to be part of it. I'm just like, guys, I'm here. So.
And I got to imagine that for them, being veterans in the business, taking you on as like you've been 2.5 years, you're the newest member. That's probably one of the qualities they're looking for. I mean, in addition to obviously you got to have the talent, you got to have the the prerequisites are already there, but probably that's right there is so much of just he's gonna show up, he's gonna do his job.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's gonna be a gear in the clock, so to speak.
Yeah, you show up. They've told me before, like, we're really happy with what you're doing. You work hard and you come prepared. That's I think that's a good quality to have in any job.
Sure.
Whatever job you're in, if it's working at a bank or if it's being in a band,
you
show up prepared, you're going to do a good job. So, I've been lucky in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had this conversation with piano players and probably with Greg where we both, with a lot of the gigs we do, we say, just by like being professional, showing up on time, doing a good job, like doors open.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
unfortunately, there are a lot of guys in the music business that don't take it as seriously, or they take it seriously but don't put the work ahead of everything. And you got to put the work in. You got to be a good guy. You got to be a good businessman also. It's called the music business.
Right.
It's not just music.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a valuable thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's not just talent, of course.
I always tell people there's kids I went to school with at Berkeley who can sing and play piano circles around me.
Yeah.
But if you drop them in a piano bar, they don't know enough songs to carry a half hour or an hour, or they don't interact with people, or if you drop them in a jazz combo, they didn't learn the changes to whatever tune. It's just like there's a level of how do you compartmentalize that raw talent? How do you, and like you said, the whole business side of things. And how important is that becoming as we go on?
Absolutely. I mean, people want to work with people they like. Yeah. I mean, you guys, I think in your world of piano bars, it's kind of a word of mouth thing. Hey, I worked with this guy and he's great and he's cool and he can play piano and sing. So give him a chance. Right. You guys kind of help each other out. I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
It's a good little community.
It certainly is.
Hey, getting back to another thing that I knew I wanted to ask you about. Now, I don't think I'm wrong here, but you had the chance, as with Rockapella, you guys performed with the Boston Pops.
Oh, yeah, we did.
When was that? And I want to ask you about that.
We've done a few different shows.
Okay.
The first experience was my first year, which was in 2010.
Right. Just for the listeners also, in case people don't know, Boston Pops is a symphony orchestra in Boston, headed up by Keith Lockhart. Yep. Probably one of the most prestigious, Yeah, in the
whole world, I think.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody knows who they are. But
yeah, they're the ones you watch on 4th of July on
right,
TV. Yeah,
exactly.
That's them. So Rockapella started a relationship with them. Actually, 4th of July, in 2007, Rockapella performed with the Boston Pops on the Esplanade, 4th of July.
I might have been there.
You might have been there.
I might have been there, man. I was living in Boston.
It was a crazy thing. So they started this really great relationship, and Scott usually jokes about on stage when we play with the Pops, we don't want to play with the crutch of the instrument. But when, he's like, when the Boston Pops called, we said yes. Yeah. So it's really a great marriage of the two things because they're so amazing at what they do and their arrangements are incredible with all the instrumentation.
Right.
And then you put Rockapella with what we do and all the crazy arrangements that we have. Right. And when you put the two together, it's really an incredible marriage.
Yeah.
So we did a gig with them on Nantucket in 2010.
Ooh, beautiful. Yeah.
And the show that we had was kind of a 70s themed thing. So we were doing some Beatles songs. We did some Elton John, like Philadelphia Freedom. And we do Here Comes the Sun with them. And
I'm thinking of all the Philadelphia with the string arrangements.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, exactly. It was great. So that was my first experience with them. So since then, the idea came up, why don't you come and do our Christmas tour, they said.
Oh, wow.
So we got to do 12 or 13 dates on tour with the Boston Pops, all around like Chicago over to New England.
Oof,
this was this past Christmas.
Yeah.
And for the prior show that we did with them, the 70s thing I just mentioned, it was like, let's fit the Boston Pops with Rockapella already done arrangements.
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
so that was one way. With the Christmas thing, we got to do it all together.
Yeah.
So it was even better. So Scott and their arranger got together, and they came up with these amazing things that we could do for the Christmas show. So we got to do 12 dates across the country with the Boston Pops, playing for 5,000 people in beautiful theaters. I mean, it was amazing.
And what is that feeling like? I got to imagine. I mean, having been, I saw, who did I see? I saw Ben Folds do a show with the Boston Pops a couple of years ago, and I couldn't help but wonder. I mean, even whether it's him or for you guys, standing out there on the apron of the stage, and behind you is this symphony orchestra.
It's amazing.
Just because at that level, and you hear people talk, you hear musicians say this all the time, that with that instrumentation and with those players, you don't just hear them; you actually feel it.
You totally do. It's like this wall of sound behind you. You know,
that's got to just be an unbelievable feeling.
It is wild. And for me, I mean, I grew up in Massachusetts, so the Boston Pops is like a huge deal to me. So I'm up on stage and we're singing Philadelphia Freedom, for example, and I turn around and I see Keith Lockhart behind me conducting the symphony. I'm like, where the heck am I right now?
You're
like
pinching yourself.
Yeah, like, this is surreal. But it is. That sound is amazing. I mean, we just put the arrangements in front of them that day. They played on the chart once in rehearsal. We do the show. I mean, that's how professional they are and good.
Sure.
Like, you know, they're the top of their world.
Now, how does that makes me wonder as well. Now, how does the arrangement? Is that something that gets subcontracted out? I mean, the music business geek in me is like, who does the arrangements? I'd love to meet that guy.
Yeah, his name escapes me at the moment, but they have a specific person that arranges for them, and you know, we have our arranger Scott, Scott Leonard.
So I'm guessing
They had phone conversations. They would send tracks back and forth, and they worked on it together. So it was a marriage of the two.
Wow.
Yeah, but they definitely do have their one specific guy that they use.
Yeah, sure.
Which is so cool.
Very cool. Yeah. Did you spend any time with Lockhart?
You know, we did a lot.
Really?
I mean, he's a great guy.
I've
really cool.
I had a weird. I got to interject here with a little story about how I met Keith Lockhart once. I went to see Dr. John, who's like, I'm sure you've heard Greg talk about him. Remarkable New Orleans blues piano player, singer. I mean, you know, he's had a 60, 70-year career. I mean, he's been around forever, and he's amazing. He is a name in the world of piano music and New Orleans jazz and blues, and he's putting on a show at it's escaping me. It's the Jazz Club over in Cambridge at the Regatta Bar.
Okay,
I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think it was the Regatta Bar at the Charles Hotel there, and my father's cousin, a guy by the name of Peter Davis, is the chef at Henrietta's Table.
Okay,
at the Charles Hotel, and he always said to me, if you ever want to see a show at the Regatta Bar, you know, I can put your name down for you know, a table or whatever. So we saw Dr. John doing a show. We said we gotta go. We gotta get this hookup. And so Peter Davis got us the seats. We show up, and they sit us at this cocktail table. Literally, it's like on the stage, and sitting next to me, I turn to my right, and it's Keith Lockhart sitting there with this like beautiful blonde woman.
Yeah,
and and he looks at me and he's like, "Oh, hi, Keith Lockhart. Nice to meet you."
Yeah, he's a cool dude. I mean, he's very a genius. Smart guy. You know, you can tell he's there for a reason.
Yes.
You know, musically, of course, he's just a genius. But as a guy, just hanging out, he's fantastic. I mean, we've got an opportunity to, after the show, hang out in the hotel lobby and, you know, have a couple beers with him. And I mean, he's just like a normal dude.
He is, yeah.
You know, and he's cool and smart and fun. And,
you
know, I think he liked hanging out with us too. So it was like, it was a good thing.
Yeah, he was. I was just. It was like a moment sitting in the car with you and Scott Leonard today. I was like, wow, this is kind of surreal.
Yeah,
sitting at a cocktail table with Keith Lockhart, and he looked like he seemed like he'd had a few drinks too.
He might have.
I'm sure he's not listening. I told him I was at Berkeley, and for at least the first 10 minutes of the conversation, he assumed I was a teacher there.
Oh, really?
I was like, no, dude, I'm just I'm just a student. I'm a very low level student. But
no, he's really cool guy. We love playing with the Pops. I think next spring they're going to come to Florida and do a tour. So I think we're going to get to do that with them, a Florida tour.
Oh, no kidding.
But we also play with other symphonies, though, not just the Boston Pops. I mean, we played with the Atlanta Symphony before. We played up in Cedar Rapids. They have a great symphony.
Right.
So that world, kind of like your world and the piano world, conductors go to different places. They don't just do the Boston Pops. Keith, I don't know if Keith still works for Utah.
He's their resident. He's considered the Pops like. I know he doesn't always, but he's like their main guy.
No, he is. Yep. But I think that he does some other things too. Like he does the BBC in England, and he does something in Salt Lake. So my point with that is different conductors go to different orchestras throughout the country. So sometimes if we've worked with one symphony director, one conductor in, let's say, Atlanta, and he works in Houston also, he brings us to the Houston Symphony, and we get to do the show there. So it's just been a really neat thing to work with all the symphonies and orchestras over the past couple of years in my experience. It's such a different show for us, but so cool, and it's so musical. You know? It's amazing.
I can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah.
One of the other things I wanted to talk about with you with Rockapella, a lot of acapella groups, and you go to an acapella show, whether it's the young folks doing it at a college, or whether it's like I saw this group Mosaic on a cruise ship. For the most part, it's covering other songs, but you guys have a whole body of original material.
Yeah, that's right.
And specifically, you've contributed to that body of work, right?
Yeah, I have. I have one song on the new album, Bang.
Now, how did that come about? How did you? Because you've only been in the group for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
But you've kind of made a stamp there with contributing. Now, is this a song you wrote, or
it is? It's a song I wrote. I originally wrote it a few years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And
what's the name of the tune again?
It's called Malibu Grand Prix.
Yes.
Yeah. And I wrote it as like kind of a country rock song, to be honest. I mean, that's kind of the style of music I was going for at the time, going that pop country route.
Right.
So I co-wrote this song with another guy in Florida.
Right.
And we recorded it, and it's got some good guitar licks, and it's got a cool melody and some cool stuff going on. So when I got in the group and Rockapella was ready to cut the new album Bang, they said, this is going to be an all-original album, and we'd like for everybody to contribute at least one original song that they wrote.
Sure.
Not just Scott or Jeff, but each one of us contribute at least one song. So I had some songs recorded, and I played them for Scott and Jeff, and they liked Malibu Grand Prix.
Right.
So Scott took that, and he made an arrangement of my recording, which had guitars and piano and everything on it, and it is what it is now, which is a fantastic arrangement of the song. I really love it.
I have heard, Greg played it for me.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I feel lucky again to have the opportunity to put a song on a Rockapella album.
Yeah, maybe we could play it at the end of the podcast.
Yeah,
I don't know
be cool.
if I'd be stepping on any copyright boundaries.
I think that'd be all right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be all right.
Cool, man. So, and going forward, do you have other stuff that you're with? I know you had played recently in Nashville, and there were some some talks about doing the singer-songwriter thing.
Yeah, I mean that's a personal move.
Right.
I am thinking about moving to Nashville within the next couple of months. I work in Orlando and I play the bar scene, and I got a little trio band that I play with. I do some cover, acoustic kind of covery stuff. But I would like to get into the singer-songwriter scene in Nashville, and made a few contacts there, and I think it's time to make the move.
Yeah,
just to give it a shot and to say I tried, and I'm not leaving Rockapella or anything like that. It's it's just moving my personal life to Nashville to try to play.
Well, it sounds like one of the great things about being involved with Rockapella is that it sounds like it's very much a group that is, like Scott said today on stage during the Q&A. He said, we have a lot of availability, but it's like specialty bookings that stuff with the Boston Pops, or you have stuff all over the world at various shows being booked. But it also sounds like there is time. You do have time to work on other things. And it sounds like most of the guys are always working on other things as well.
Yeah, we all have other projects. If it's working at Disney, which we still do sometimes, or John just cut a acapella gospel album, and he tours himself, and he goes and does the church tours, and performs at churches, which is fantastic.
Right.
So there is room to do other things. We're not on the road 3 months at a time.
Right.
We're out for a week, we go home for 2 or 3 weeks, and we go out again. So it's not like this consistent touring.
Sure.
So it does leave the room to do things. So that's why I think this Nashville thing might be a good move for me right now.
Yeah. Have you spent much time there? You were there
Not
recently?
much. I went recently.
When were you there?
This was like 3 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah. So
I was there in February, and I had never been there. And I did 2 weekends in a row playing at a piano bar in Lexington, Kentucky. So I just took the drive and had a friend to hang out with there. And
it's a cool town.
It was interesting. What did you think of did you walk up and down you must have walked up and down the main strip.
I did, I mean, the touristy street, I think they call it Broadway, actually. Yeah. And it's cool. I mean, there's music in every single bar. I mean, at 2 p.m. on Monday, I was there recently, and there's bands or a solo guy in every single place. So there's music everywhere.
It's all like top notch.
Everybody's good. Everybody can sing and everybody can play. And I think Jason Aldean has a song that says, we're in this crazy town. Nashville's a crazy town. And it says, where everybody sings and everybody plays is one of his lyrics. And it's so true.
It's true, yeah.
But I got a good vibe from it. They have singer-songwriter nights like every night of the week. So if you can get in, which is kind of an invite kind of a thing, you get to go and perform your original tunes, and who knows who might be in the audience, if it's other writers or other artists or a producer or somebody. So I'm excited about it.
I think it'd be a good move for you, man. I think you're well established here with Rockapella, and that's not going away anytime soon.
I don't think so.
And I mean, and Nashville's not too far from Florida. And
no, it might be a good fit, got support from the guys in Rockapella to say, yeah, man, go do this if it's something that you want to do. And I actually talk with Scott about co-writing on some stuff, and he might help me out. And when I was in Nashville, I got to perform at a writer's night, and I covered a Rockapella song. The song is called "A Change in My Life."
Oh yeah, and it's a beautiful
and
song.
It's a fantastic tune, and it translates so well to country music. So I made a little acoustic arrangement of it, and it's good.
Yeah, and now your brother's doing it at piano bars.
Yeah,
he works.
He's actually been doing it before I was doing it.
Really?
So,
Okay, yeah.
I know he does the Carmen Sandiego thing too at the piano bars.
He does. He works it in. He works it in. It's usually beginning of the night or end of the night.
Yeah, that's cool. It gets a response.
It does.
20 years later, I mean, people still know what it is, and that keeps us going.
Cool, man. Well, hey, thanks so much for letting me come and crash your hotel room and for seeing the show and everything. I'm going to have to come see you guys again, do a full 2 hour
sure thing.
But it's been great. You feel good about this?
Thank you. Yeah, man. It's great. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Steve Dorian, thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers. Hey, everybody. We're going to go ahead and present that tune that Steve and I were just talking about. This is the song Malibu Grand Prix, which is a song that Steve co-wrote with a friend of his, and this was Steve's contribution to the Rockapella album entitled Bang, which you can go ahead on the iTunes Music Store and go ahead and buy that album. Check these guys out. Give them some support. Thanks for listening. Yeah, so that was Steve Dorian with Rockapella doing their tune Malibu Grand Prix off of the album Bang. Go ahead on the iTunes Music Store and check out the whole album. And go ahead and visit their website, www.rockapella.com, and you can find out all about their upcoming performances and everything you need related to that group. So go ahead and check them out. Hey, a couple plugs about our podcast here. Check us out at www.pianobarbarians.com. Go ahead on Twitter and find us, Piano Barbarians. Go ahead on Facebook and give us a like. Hey, send us an email, pianobarbarians@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. We're so happy to hear from you. Thanks again for the support. Thanks for listening. This is episode number 27. We are signing off. Ciao.